Hey guys, this is Mathieu Frémaux aka Fremox. This video tutorial is about patterns creation with the help of my MoglyphFX toolset, and especially I will show you the brand new font that comes with the 3.3 release of my tool called MoglyphC Grid Patterns. So without any waiting, let's go ahead and get started. So once you have installed the latest version of MoglyphFX, you will find the new font I've added in your main drop-down list, so it will be there. But in my case, I don't have released it yet, so it's just a test, so my font appears here. So it's named MoglyphC Grid Patterns because any name with an uppercase C in its name means that it's meant to be used with a specific type of cloner. So here, as you can read, this is written C grid, so this font is especially made to be used with the grid cloner. So without any waiting, let's create a cool pattern. So first, you will need to choose your font, and of course I will choose this new one. Okay, and let's create a new grid cloner. Okay, cool. So as you can see, there is a nice shape, which is pretty cool, but you can do much more than this. So let's customize the grid cloner a bit. So I will add more clones by just choosing the cloner layer, going inside the object, and add some count on X and count on Y. So let's add, let's say 16 and 9 on the Y, and let's make it a bit smaller by resizing it a bit. But before that, let's remove the gap between each clone. So by default, each clone is about 100 pixels wide on 100 pixel height. So the gap here means that you have exactly 20 pixels between each clone, but if you zero it out on both axes, you will make all your clones touch each other. So it's really cool in order to create some cool patterns. So let's do this. And again, let's resize it to make this guy fits the comp. Okay, cool. So I have this nice pattern already. And of course, you can do a lot of things like going to transform and play with the rotation, but this is not that cool for now. So let's twill up this guy, and let's add a new glyph. So to do so, just select your cloner and click on the button called Add New Glyph. And as you can see, this font comes with exactly 100 cool glyphs that are meant to be tileable and to be used in Grid Cloner. So I will just start with this one, which is the one by default, but you will need to add one in order to make it change over time. So I will click on this one, and as you can see, there is a new Glyph 1 effect that appears here. So let's close this guy up. Okay, so the Glyph 1, is this number here, and if you increase this number, you will cycle through all the number of glyphs here in the grid. Okay, so if I hover each shape, you see that this is glyph 2, glyph 3, glyph 4, etc. So if you close this and if you play with this number, you can cycle through all these cool shapes, and yeah, you can see all the nice patterns that I've created for this font. This is pretty nice, so we can do a lot of cool stuff just with this, but let's go further. Okay, so you have exactly 100. I won't show all of them now, but you get the idea. So I will leave it to 1, for example. And let's add to my cloner an effector. So select your cloner layer here, go to the Animate tab, and just select the Formula effector. This is when the magic happens, right now, okay? So select your cloner, go to Animate tab, and click on Formula. By default, the Formula effector will create wavy animation, but this is not that interesting for us now. So click on Effector Formula and reset all the parameters by clicking the Reset button. So as you can see now, nothing happens. And deploy the Effector subgroup. And in the formula here, in the drop-down list, you had wave animation scene by default, but I don't want that. I want the random direction RND here. I want the third one. So select this. And I want all my glyphs to be able to rotate by 90 degrees, in 4 different directions. So I want the n number here to be exactly 4, because there are exactly 4 different directions available for such a squared glyph, right? And the f in this case will just be a random seed in my case. Okay, so you can play with this, but you won't see anything for now. Okay, so in the Effector Formula, just deploy the parameters, transform, and just find the rotation Z, okay, which is the 2D rotation, and just add 1 exactly full turn, right? So just type 1 or 360 degrees. It's exactly the same. And as you can see, instantly I have a really cool pattern that is happening. And this is just because you asked to the Effector Formula to rotate randomly by 90 degrees all my clones. Okay, and if you don't want to have exactly 4 directions, you can play with this n number and just type 2, for example. So all my glyphs will rotate by 180 degrees. And you can even add more. So if you add 8, you can have all your glyphs rotating by 45 degrees. Okay, so in my case, I just want to live with 4. Okay, cool. So if you want to add some color to this, you can play with the style, okay, in the Effector Formula. And if you want to, you can play with the fill hue, for example, and you instantly see what's happening here. This is pretty cool. Or you can just uncheck this little button here, which stands for colors for cloner. And as you can see, my cloner by default has this greenish color here. So if I check this, it will inherit from the cloner setup. Okay, so I will uncheck this and play with the color to have something cool. Okay, something like this, for example. Okay, I love this one. So yeah, this is already pretty cool. And just by playing with the different shapes you have here, you can already achieve some really cool effects, as you can see. So this is pretty nice. And yeah, this is already cool. And what if I want to add more variations? Well, you can add another glyph shape here, because for the moment I just have one glyph only. And to do so, you just need to select your cloner again and go to the Generate tab, and click again on the Add New Glyph button. And you can add a second glyph, okay? So I've done my best to provide each negative and positive shape for each shape. So I will choose the glyph 2, for example. And as you can see now, I have two effects to play with. I can adjust the glyph 1, okay, and choose another shape with this one. And as you can see, this is iterated, this is cycling in this drop-down list of two glyph shapes. You can want this, but I prefer to have a more random distribution. So to do so, just drill down the Moglyph cloner itself, and in the object you have the clones on iterate. This is why you have this even distribution here. So it will cycle through the glyph 1, glyph 2, glyph 1, glyph 2, etc. But if I change this to randomize, I now have something really cool and really more interesting. So you can change the seed by playing with this number here. And you can play with different variations of the glyphs. So you can, for example, play with the third shape and type 4 for the glyph number 2. And as you can see, there are some interesting variations here, because you have some negative and some positive variations of the same glyph. So this is pretty cool. And what if I have 5 and 6? Okay, cool. I can play with this further. And yeah, you have some really nice, interesting patterns here. So again, this is a positive and negative version of the same glyph. If you take a look at how it's down, this is this one and this one at the moment. And you can play with this and achieve some really cool effect. So I can just show you a bunch of variations. Okay, this one is pretty cool too, as you can see. Yeah, you can play again with these values. So let me show you. I will try different variations. Okay, pretty nice. And yeah, this is basically just it. So as you can see, it gives really interesting results. And by the way, I'm using here a grid cloner, but don't forget that you can use this grid patterns font with other type of clones, of course, of cloners. Okay, so it's meant to be used in the grid cloner, but you are not bound to use this in the grid cloner. You can use, for example, the honeycomb cloner, which is great too for patterns creation. So let's continue with the different variations. Okay, cool. And yeah, I love this one too. Okay, this is pretty nice. As you can see, there is like a maze that is forming in front of you. So this is pretty cool. And again, let's play with these other kind of values. Okay, so I will go a bit faster here because I think you've understood the basic concept. So in order to create some cool techie stuff, you can just play with these squares variations, which are really cool. And yeah, this is pretty nice. Okay, again, let me show you. The possibilities are really limitless with this technique. So I really love the effector that is called Formula, because it really allows you to create interesting stuff. Just by turning randomly all the shapes randomly by 90 degrees, you can just have some really cool variations here. Okay, I really love this one too. So it corresponds the 51 to this one and this one. So you have this kind of retro pop look, which is really beautiful if you ask me. Okay, so if you turn this to iterate again and just deactivate the formula effector, you have this, right? So this is how it's working. So randomize this, and now reactivate the formula effector again. And yeah, this is pretty cool. You can have some nice variations with plain circles too. Look at that, how beautiful it is. So I'm really happy with the result of this new font, and I'm really glad you guys will have the possibility to play with this too. And by the way, if you don't want the color to be changed, again, just re-click on colors from cloners, and you can see better now what's happening to your clones. Okay, and of course, if you want to have something white and not green, again, just go to the Moglyph cloner, transform, and play with the color here. Okay, I will just undo this. Okay, let's continue really quickly to show you the potential of this. You have some nice retro look, retro patterns, and yeah, this one's pretty cool too. This one is pretty nice too. I think I will use this one a lot in my upcoming project, so don't hesitate to show me what you come with, guys. This one is cool too. This is really basic, but this double half circles works really well with random directions and grid cloner. So as you can see, this is pretty interesting. This one too. Look at this, how beautiful it is. It almost looked like reaction diffusion pattern, right? So yeah, this is pretty cool. Actually, this one is pretty nice too. This is like an intriguing techy interlaced pattern. So yeah, the possibilities are again really endless. So hope you will enjoy this, guys. This font again comes with the latest 3.3 version of MoglyphFX, which is of course free for any already MoglyphFX user. So okay, this is finished for this demonstrations of the C grid patterns, and I have a few more tips and tricks for you if you have to create some patterns with MoglyphFX. So let's create a new composition for this, and this time let's create let's say in the style of Affair, which is the last font I had provided in a previous release. So this one is pretty cool too. This is my first collaborative font, and just select this one. And some of these shapes here that have been designed by some friends of mine are meant to be tileable. So this is the case for the very first row here and for the last row here. So these two lines of glyphs should be put in a grid cloner, and again just go to the object and zero out the gap. Okay, and again let's add more glyph to this one. Okay, and let's make it fit to the comp 8 and width. Okay, and again I can just use the formula effector like before, but I won't do that. I will just play with the different variations of the different glyphs here. So you could do that by in two ways. You can just, for example, add a second. So let's firstly add this one and this one. And as you can see, again, it will iterate through the lists of glyphs. So I will add this one too, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one. And let's close this. And as you can see, it's kind of random, but it's not really random. In fact, since we have exactly 10 glyphs, it will go like this. So glyph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you have a count on X that is exactly 10, you will see that all the glyphs will repeat row by row. So you may not want to have this, so you can again choose randomize instead of iterate. But the problem with randomize is that it will prioritize the glyphs that are here at the bottom of the list. So each time you go up in this list, there are less and less chances to have this guy here, because it's based on expressions, and unfortunately I can't keep track of randomness in my glyphs. It's due to some expressions limitation, but yeah, you will end up with some glyphs that we will never see at all. So this one here won't even show up in my cases. So it will be great if I just want to iterate, but in my case, randomize won't work that well in this situation. So how do you do that when you need such a randomness? So let me undo all this. Okay. So how do you do this? I will select my Moglyph cloner here. As you can see, I haven't added any glyph shapes yet. And just by clicking add new glyph, I will just think a bit of what I'm doing. As you can see, there are exactly 10 different shapes in this row. And I want to have the same probability to have this shape, this shape, this shape, this one, all this one in this row. So how do I do that? I need to count the number of possibilities I have. So I have 10 glyphs. But I can't choose a glyph that is exactly at the middle of this grid, because this is an even number, but the middle will be here, and there isn't any glyph number, let's say 0.45, okay? So I need to choose a way to use the random effector to randomize from this one in this direction and in this direction, and to randomize in this one, in this direction, and in this direction. If I had only 9 glyphs, I could have just used the glyph number 5, because it's exactly at the middle of my 9 glyphs. But since I want the 10 shapes, I need to do so. So let me divide my 10 glyph in two halves. And the first half of my selection is this one, and the exactly centered middle shape here is the glyph 3. So I click on the glyph 3, okay? And the second half is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one is exactly the middle one in this portion. So I will click on glyph 8. So I can now close this guy here. And now if I select my Moglyph cloner, as you can see, there is only a glyph number 3 and a glyph number 8 here. So each time it will repeat over and over. But now if I select my Moglyph cloner and go in Animate tab and go in the Random Effector, I can just reset all this, because I don't want the clones to be resized, okay, and to change the color. So just reset this. And now what I'm gonna do is just to twill down the parameters other and just to offset the glyph. And as you can see, if I go again in add new glyph, I want the glyph 3 to go in this way and to go in this way. And the random effector by default has a maximum value of 100 and a minimum value of -100. So -100 will go in this way and 100 will go in this way. And for the second glyph, which is this one, it will go this way for the -100 and this way for the plus, the maximum value. So hope that is clear. Sorry if it's not, it's a bit difficult and a bit techy, but again, this is just a trick to be able to create better patterns. Okay, so let's close this. And as you can see, I just need to, from this one, go 1, 2, 1, 2. So I need to offset the glyph just by 2, okay? So in other offset glyph, just type 2. And now I have the full possibilities available in this row, okay? No glyph has been forgotten. You have exactly the same probability to have this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one, right? This is how you would have to do in this case. And be careful, because if I go further, so if I enter, okay, I will have some holes here, and I will even have some other shapes I don't want. Okay, and this is because the last one in the row, if you go further than +2, you will go +3, so the glyph 8 will be 9, 10, 11. So this is why it goes here. And in the case of the glyph 3, if you go -100, 1, 2, 3, okay, you go in the empty slot here, which is an empty glyph, okay? So be careful with the calculation and just type 2 to have exactly what you want. And you'll have to do so to count over the number of glyph you have to choose from. So for example, if you design your own glyph, font glyph, and you have, let's say, 12 different shapes you want to populate your cloner with, so you will have to divide by 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you will have, sorry, in the case of 12, it will be the 6th number, okay? It really depends of the case you have and of the number of clones you have. So as you can see, I told you that this one worked really well too. So as you can see, this is a glyph number 93 and 98. So let's close this. And again, if I change this to 93 and 98, you will obtain this cool pattern. And again, you have the same probability to have all the available shapes in your font. So again, if you want to change the distribution, just play with the source here, and just by playing with this value, you will change radically the way it appears. Okay, cool. This is all for the pattern creation with MoglyphFX. Again, if you have any question, just ask me and just comment, and you can open some super ticket if you want to. And that's all, folks, and see you later for other cool stuff down with MoglyphFX. Bye, guys.